now let's get into what supply is all about. So supply is the amount of good or service a producer is willing to supply at each price. So from a let's say a coffee shop standpoint, right? You understand that it costs, you have this many beans, this many employees. Okay, how much are you going to sell one coffee for? How much would you sell five for? Right? What are you willing to sell it for? So that's the difference between supply and quantity supplied. Again, quantity supplied is going to be just the actual amount that you sell. Another way to think about this is that you have a t-shirt business, all right, with labor, machines, with the capability to supply anywhere from 100 to 1,000 t-shirts, right? So the supply shows you the capacity for selling your t-shirts, right? Someone comes to you and says, hey, you know, how much for 100 t-shirts, how much for 1,000 t-shirts, right? So the supply curve is your total capabilities of what you can make, and then price is just going to determine the quantity that is sold. That's the difference here. Supply is just like your production capabilities, and then the quantity supplied is the actual amount that you sell. That's the difference. The law of supply here is different from the law of demand. Law of supply says whenever prices are higher, the quantity supplied is also higher. All right, and then when the prices are lower, the quantity supplied is lower. So again, in terms of supply, your production capabilities doesn't really change because of price, but price dictates how much you actually sell. So for example, let's say you're at a farmer's market and they're like, hey, you can set up here, but you have to limit your selling price to $15. So you don't want to bring all of your t-shirts to sell at this market because you know you're only making $15 a shirt. And so you're going to only bring, let's say, 100, right? You want to be at the market, you just sell a little bit. Now, if you went to another market and they're like, hey, you can sell as much as $50 here, you want to bring as many t-shirts as you can. So now you bring 500 shirts. So your supply capabilities did not change. Your ability to make t-shirts stays the same, but price dictated the quantity that you brought. So that's the difference between supply and quantity supplied. And so as you can see here, because the price is higher, you're willing to make more, right, and sell more. So that's the difference there. Now we do have a supply schedule, very similar to the demand schedule. Again, it's just a table showing you the prices and quantities, right? And again, each firm or each, like just same with the consumers, they have their own demand schedule. So firms have their own supply schedule. Okay, so here we have Valero, QT, and Costco, and they have all of their quantities that they're willing to sell at the different prices. Again, the whole thing is the supply. The individual amounts are the quantity supplied. To find the market supply, we're going to do the same thing where we just add the quantities together. And so what we'll do is at 350, we'll look at Valero, QT, and Costco, and we're going to figure out what is the what is the market supply at that price. And so we would see 87 plus 30 plus 40, and that's going to be 157. Now the price is 325 according to the law of supply, where it says lower prices, we're going to see a lower quantity supplied. And so now we have 72, 20, and 30. And so now we have a market supply of 122. To fill out the rest of these, again, you just add horizontal. So in this case, we'll do 57 plus 10 plus 20. So that should be 87. We'll do 42 and 10. That should be 52. And then we'll do 27 and 0 and 0. Okay. As you can see here, because the prices are lower, the firms are willing to sell less, right? And we can see that again on a supply curve where we can see a positive relationship. Higher prices, higher quantity. See how it is sloping upwards, looking left to right? That is a positive relationship. And again, to find the market supply, what you're looking at is you just add these quantities together. Okay, so in this case, you have 0, 10, and 42, so you end up with 52, right? So that's where we're ending up with the supply. Now, together, where we put supply and demand on the same graph, that's going to lead us to equilibrium. Okay, now equilibrium is the combination of price and quantity where there's no pressure from surpluses or shortages for the price or quantity to change. Basically, what we're looking at is that your quantity demanded is equal to your quantity supplied. So we have an equilibrium price and an equilibrium quantity. And that happens right here. Notice that at this price here, the quantity demanded, 87, and the quantity supplied, 87, is the same. So right here, where they come together, this is your equilibrium. So we could say our equilibrium point is right here, $3.87 quantity, right? So the reason this is equilibrium is we're saying like, hey, the demand says at $3, I'm agreeing to buy 87 gallons. So that's the demand side. And then the supply side is saying at $3, I'm willing to sell 87 gallons. And so what we have here is an agreement, right? So an intersection, like a handshake, showing us that this is what we agree upon. This is what the market wants. There's no reason to charge a higher price and there's no reason to go lower. This means that the firms are selling as much as they can at that price, and the consumers are getting the best price in the market. All right. What we'll talk about next are what these surpluses and shortages do to the price.